Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, text number 38. Na hi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati nahi jnanena sadrisham In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Purport. When we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. And when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. That is the last word in the Bhagavad Gita. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in this practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. So, there are two elements which are essential in any discussion of transcendence. Vijayam, vijaschayam, tad yastad vedo bhayam saha, vinashena majum tirpa. This statement is there in the Ishopanishad, that one must understand side by side the science of nescience and the science of knowledge. Side by side, one has to discuss these two things. For example, in philosophical discussions, often they use the example of a pot. For so many things, they use the example of a pot. We've seen this for dozens and dozens of different philosophical topics, especially when discussing with Mayavadis. Mayavadis are especially eager to discuss about pots and Aaron pots and things like this. So, in order to discuss the transcendence, it seems one also has to know about pots and things like that. So that is what it means. You must have knowledge of the mundane realm, nescience it is called, as well as knowledge of the transcendence, the vidya and the avidya. Just like this material world, the universe. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 subject matters of discussion. Sarga, Visarga, Stanam, Poshan, Bhuti, and so on. Anyway, the main thing we're concerned with here is Sarga and Visarga. Sarga and Visarga refer to the primary creation of the Lord, and Visarga refers to the creation by Brahma and his representatives. So, this is mundane. This is of nescience. because this material world is considered to be nescience. However, the creations by the Lord are not nescience when they are seen in relationship to the Supreme. Just like this table is certainly a product of material existence. Factually, it's made of a tree, which is in the mode of ignorance. And this is dead matter. Certainly we would not proclaim it to be conscious or very important or specifically in any other mode than ignorance. But when we speak of this table in terms of its relationship with the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, that the Bhagavad Gita sits on this table, or the Srimad Bhagavatam would sit on this table, or maybe we do arti from this table. So this table then has a different understanding from an ordinary table, because it is then used in relationship with the Supreme, and things which have a relationship with the Supreme are no longer in material context, are to be understood in material context. They are to be understood in a spiritual context. Just like this book, Bhagavad Gita. Now, externally, it is made of paper, which is made of the same wood as this table. Pulp, paper pulp, certain chemicals made into paper, bleached white, some ink, which is a product of chemical composition, and like that, some plastic on the outside. So, by all intents and purposes, this book is a mundane creation. Certainly, the people who printed the book thought that way. They never thought this book to be anything special. They thought this book is just a product of paper and glue, and maybe sometimes some stitching. They never thought of it as anything special. It's just a way to make money for them. But for us who worship Bhagavad Gita on the altar, because these books are practically deities, we know that this is the literary incarnation of Godhead. For us, it is a completely different thing. We understand it in its spiritual relationship. That this book, Bhagavad Gita, is fully 100% spiritual. Because it is totally and completely related to Krishna. Because it is nothing but Krishna's words. And Krishna's words are absolute, as is anything in relationship with Krishna. So, we can understand that actually the designation between matter and spirit is hazy and fuzzy when one applies it in the material world to things which are connected with Krishna. After all, there are many stories. There's even one story of a mouse who became liberated or a devotee in his next life because he ate the ghee wick on the altar. I mean, things which are material are not really material any longer when they are connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, the distinction between what is matter and spirit blurs when it comes near transcendence. It blurs. It is no longer so exact. And as you come closer and closer and closer to transcendence, it becomes less and less and less material. Even the body of a devotee. The body of a devotee becomes completely spiritualized in relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the example used in this connection is an iron rod. An iron rod is certainly a hard material substance. And it, when placed in fire, becomes hotter and hotter and hotter until it is blazing hot, like fire itself. It is red hot, just like fire. Now someone may say, no, it is not just like fire, it is iron. Because when it cools off, it becomes like iron again. However, in the state of being in the fire, it has become energized in such a way that it is no longer iron, but it acts exactly like fire. It is iron acting exactly like fire, and therefore we do not see a difference between it and fire. And what is the proof? Touch it to anything flammable, and it will burn. Therefore, it is just like fire. And the distinction as iron is no longer relevant any longer. Similarly, the body of a pure devotee, although seemingly material from the materialist's point of view, is actually fully spiritual because of being in the fire of devotional service and equipped with transcendental knowledge. Thus, the body of the pure devotee becomes just like spirit, becomes fully spiritualized. In fact, Sanatana Goswami even quotes that at the time of initiation, the body of the devotee becomes spiritualized. Because it is coming in contact with the purity, with the transcendental purity of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. Bhuta Madhava, as Krishna stated in the previous verses in chapter 4, that one develops the same nature as Krishna. One develops the same qualities as Krishna. Of course, we already have the same qualities as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by our nature, because we are, after all, spirit souls who are part and parcel of Krishna. But when we realize that due to transcendental knowledge, then our position as being pure spirit souls, pure in nature, spiritual in nature, becomes very strong. And thus the distinction between the living entity and the Supreme is not as obvious as it is here in the material world. Now that does not mean we are Mayavadis who say that the distinction completely disappears. But we do say that the distinction blurs more and more. Or a better phrase to be used is that the distinctions become less distant. As the lover and beloved in Krishna consciousness engage themselves in pure reciprocal loving devotional service, as the lover engages himself in pure loving devotional service in reciprocation with the Supreme, who also engages in service to the beloved. He also is loving the devotee. Devotee is loving Krishna, Krishna is loving the devotee. Devotee is serving Krishna, and Krishna is serving the devotee. Just see how Krishna fulfilled all the desires of the gopis at the rasa dance. Even to the point when they became tired and fatigued, he wiped his lotus hand over their faces and removed all the perspiration and the fatigue they were feeling. He didn't have to do that. But because the Supreme also engages himself in service to his devotees who love him and serve him, then they also are served by Krishna. Krishna loves to render a service to his devotees. Just like when Sudama Vipra came to visit Krishna, he walked into Rukmini's palace, and there Krishna was on the bed being fanned by Rukmini. He immediately got up and welcomed Sudama Vipra, embraced him with his arms, sat him down on the bed, which was as white as the foam of milk, with ivory and coral bedstead and golden filigree. And on that bed, which is the abode of the goddess of fortune, the Supreme Lord washed the lotus feet of Sudama Vipra, offered him artik and fanned him, and gave him wonderful foodstuffs to eat, and sweet words of appreciation and remembrance of their days together at the school where they were both engaged under the orders of their guru, Sandipani Muni. So we can see how Krishna loves his devotees. And that is because these devotees are of the same nature as Krishna. You do not find that Krishna reciprocates like this with those who are of the material category. Those who have no knowledge of Krishna, those who have no devotion to Krishna, those who have no service to Krishna. He does not reciprocate with them like that. Not at all. He only reciprocates like that. Just as we just described, Sudama Vipra and the gopis and like that. When there is an offering. And even if it is not done by someone who is very practiced in devotional service, if it is done at that moment in transcendental love or appreciation of the Lord and his qualities, the Lord will reciprocate fully. Just like Kubja. If you remember the example of Kubja, when Krishna entered Mathura, she was a hunchback lady. Not at all beautiful, rather ugly in her hunchback form. But when she saw Krishna and Balaram, she became totally enamored by their beauty and their spiritual purity. And then, although Krishna was making a joke with her, she said, there is no one else I can imagine who would be more suited to receiving the sandalwood pulp than you two boys. Although this pulp is meant for the king, King Kamsa, and naturally, if you take something meant for the king and you give it to anyone else, you'll have your head cut off or something like that. Because kings, they're very intolerant of people taking things to others, of that are theirs, and giving them to others. So you can imagine the big risk she was under. It's like the washerman. Before that, the washerman, Krishna and the coward boy came up to the washerman and said, please give us some cloth for myself and my friends, and if you do, you will be greatly benefited. And the washerman, thinking that Kamsa was all and all in that kingdom of Mathura, Kamsa was supreme, and therefore he was full of fear, he said, no, how dare you take those things which are meant for the king? These are King Kamsa's clothes. And if you try to take those clothes, then his officers will come, the police will come and punish you, and you will be put into difficulties. Don't you boys understand what you're doing here? And Krishna thought, yes, he is a fool. He does not understand anything about me. He is simply a servant of Kamsa, therefore he deserves to be killed. And with a mere motion of his hand, he chopped off the head of the washerman and took all the clothes anyway. Now, Kubja, she did not have that feeling of fear. Because in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she became completely absorbed in the form of the Lord and lost all fears for Kamsa or the police or anyone like that. And she immediately smeared on the body of Krishna and Balaram the sandalwood paste. And you can imagine what kind of austerities and penances she must have performed in the past to do such a thing. To touch the body of the Lord directly and smear it with sandalwood paste. And Krishna immediately reciprocated with her by grabbing her by the cheeks and holding his feet on her feet and pulling her straight and making her a beautiful young girl. And she immediately reciprocated with Krishna by grabbing his dhoti and saying, oh, now that you have done this to me, you must come with me and enjoy. And Krishna actually did that later on, because of the service she offered to him. In this way, we can understand the glory of Krishna's devotees and how Krishna is so much indebted to his devotees, just like the gopis. He was so indebted to the gopis that he told them, I cannot repay you for your devotional service to me. Therefore, let your service itself be your reward. You should just be satisfied with the service that you are rendering. Now the gopis were already satisfied with the service they were rendering. And had Krishna told them that he could give them something in return for their devotion, they would have not been very satisfied at all. Indeed, they may have become completely insulted. Why is Krishna saying that? We are not business ladies. We are not loving him for some business agreement that we will get something out of it. We are loving him because he is our beloved. That's all. They have developed pure love for Krishna. They have no other reason to love him other than the fact that he is their beloved. They don't even know him as the Supreme Personality of God. They simply love him and serve him without any other motivation, in the purest love that exists in existence. And therefore, Krishna reciprocates with them. That is transcendental knowledge, the epitome of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, it is stated, if I can remember it, well, I can't remember it. Vajragadu Bhagena Yakalpita, how does that start off? Ramya Karchita Pasana Vajragadu, that's how it starts off. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, there is no better way to worship Krishna than that which was performed by the gopis. Because it is the purest love. There is no other love than that which can be explained as the topmost love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we should understand that this is the epitome of transcendental knowledge. Now that epitome of transcendental knowledge cannot be learned simply by some scholastic jnana. And Krishna here is speaking about transcendental knowledge of the highest order. He is not elaborating on this further in the Bhagavad Gita. For the Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of spiritual life. But later on, when Krishna, by Krishna's arrangement, Srila Vyasadeva will, after teaching his son, Shukadeva, who was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, who was being heard by Shuta Goswami, to Shonaka Rishi, and later on Vyasadeva wrote down all these different conversations. Lord Krishna will, through Vyasadeva, who is the literary incarnation of Godhead, explain the highest realms of devotional service for us to follow, to appreciate, and to emulate. Therefore, we should always keep our target high, to try to come to the greatest love of Godhead that is possible. Now, we may not reach that love, maybe not in this lifetime, but we should try to, because by reaching high, you will get the greatest gain that you can possibly gain. If you think, well, in this lifetime, I'll just try to follow the regulative principles. If I can do that, I'll be happy. That's all right. That's not bad. In fact, for some, that's even pretty good. But that is not the goal. This is the yama niyam of the yogic process. This is yoga. Krishna calls it here yoga. Yoga samsada, one who is mature in yoga. But he's not referring here to mystic yogic processes. The whole fourth chapter he's been talking about devotional service. Why all of a sudden he would switch to mystic yogic processes. Obviously this yoga is referring to bhakti yoga, the supreme yoga system, which is meant for those who would really become mature in their yogic practice and understand the Supreme Personality of God. Of course, one may not be related with the Lord as a gopi. One may be related in the parental love, or one may be related as a queen in Dwarka, or one may be related as a cowherd boy, or one may be in servitude as a cowherd boy, or one may even be in the Vaikuntha Bhava. It is not bad to be in any other relationship. Sometimes some speakers try to make you feel guilty if you are not in Madhurya Rasa as a gopi. From their point of view, anyone who's not in Madhurya Rasa as a gopi is useless. But this is nonsense. Whatever your particular relationship is with Krishna, you should be happy in it, you will be happy in it, not should be happy in it. And you will find perfection in it, and we have all respect for you, and all glories to your devotional service. Therefore, in whatever relationship you may happen to be in, that is wonderful. Just perfect that relationship, and establish yourself in your spiritual form in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spiritual sky. There is no need to worry about, there's no need to worry about what is your spiritual relationship. Because when it is time that you will realize what that relationship is, it will come upon you with great force, just as the sun rises in the morning. No one can stop it. Similarly, that relationship with the Supreme will rise, just like the sun in the morning. And it will be within your heart fully clear and fully apparent. It's like here it is stated. Kalena Atmani Vindati. To that person who is Yoga Samsada, fully mature in devotion, he enjoys within himself the perfection in due course of time. Kalena. He enjoys within himself the real relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which brings about perfect peace. And this will come automatically. That is what this whole movement is all about. To develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead in our original spiritual forms. It does not mean even that we have to get freed from taking birth in this material world. For one who is perfected can see practically the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly with his own eyes. We find in the writings of the Goswamis how they directly saw the pastimes of the Lord. And in this way, there's even a story in the Bhakti Ratnakar where Rupa Goswami was once standing somewhere and he was watching Krishna speaking with the gopis, and the gopis speaking with Krishna. And one of the gopis had said something very interesting, a very funny statement. So Rupa Goswami laughed. And another person had been talking to Rupa Goswami. Didn't realize Rupa Goswami wasn't even on this world. And when he laughed, when Rupa Goswami laughed, the person got so insulted that he went away in a huff. And he went to Sanatana Goswami and said, "Look what your brother has done to me. Such an insult." And Sanatana Goswami had to explain to him that Rupa Goswami wasn't on this planet. And therefore there was no connection to him, that person, and his statement and Rupa Goswami's reaction. Therefore the Goswamis were always running around Vrindavan going, "Hey Radhe, Brajadevi Ke, Chalalite, Hey Nanda Suto, Kuta, Shri Govardhan," etc. They were just speaking about, "Hey Radha, hey Krishna, where are you now? We are everywhere looking for you in this land of Braja." They were not on this planet. Although they were factually here amongst people, they were not here. They were actually in the spiritual sky. we find some persons, like Srila Prabhupada, could be simultaneously engaged on the platform of direct service to the Supreme Lord and His eternal consort, Srimati Radharani, and yet at the same time available for us on this platform. Srila Prabhupada was very happy in Vrindavan. He was fully absorbed in spiritual bliss. He did not have to leave Vrindavan to attain perfection. He was already perfected. But due to his love for us, due to his feeling responsible for this whole world, although he was perfectly mature in his devotion and was feeling great peace and bliss within himself, he left that holy abode and his samadhi and went to the West to preach Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we should never fall victim of trying to enjoy the pastimes of the Lord and forgetting about this preaching mission of this kind. Srila Prabhupada instilled within us this preaching mission, and he never wanted it to be lost at any moment. Even if later on, some of you, if not all of you, by grace of the Lord, may attain realization of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at that time, you should not withdraw from the activities of preaching, but rather, in your perfected state, should go out and preach to all the people of this world and attract them to Krishna and save them. Prahlad Maharaj said, there are many perfected souls who live in the hills and mountains and who have no contact with the fallen conditioned souls. But I do not want to be like them. I want to go into the cities and villages and associate with the people just to bring them to the platform of Krishna consciousness. So of course none of this is relevant to us right now because we are on the stage of practicing Krishna consciousness. But if ever you come, not if, when, it is a question of when, not if. But when you come to the platform of perfection, don't forget the fallen conditioned souls. Don't forget to bring them back to Godhead. I think this is something very important to be stated. Because sometimes people, they think, now I am a great gopi in Vaikuntha, now I don't have to anymore have anything to do with the material world. But then who's going to preach? Only the conditioned souls who are practicing Krishna consciousness will preach. And who's going to bring people to the highest platform? Therefore, become perfected, become great devotees, become wonderful devotees, purely spiritually realized, and go out and preach this Krishna consciousness all over the world, and expand Krishna consciousness more and more. This is actually the mission of Srila Prabhupada, to bring everyone to the platform of pure love of God, and to have them expand that Krishna consciousness far and wide, all over the world. Hare Krishna. Do I have to ask? Yes?
Like Srila Prabhupada was coming to preach to save us because we say because it's love for us. But what is the most important for devoting Krishna? Is it that he gives Krishna or that he cares God for us?
What were the last two sentences?
What is the most important to a pure devotee like that? Is it that he pleases Krishna with his service or that he saves us out of love for us?
Lord Chaitanya's mission is to save the conditioned souls and to taste pure love of Godhead that Srimati Radharani tastes for him, Krishna. So these two things are there simultaneously in Lord Chaitanya's example. And although the spreading of Krishna consciousness was a primary function, Lord Chaitanya's real purpose was to taste the love of Godhead. But he did not neglect the conditioned souls. That's why Lord Chaitanya stayed on this world until Advaita Acharya told him there's nobody wants rice anymore in the marketplace. It's all sold out. Everybody's satisfied, and they've all become madmen, just like us. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya understood. Now my mission is complete. He has installed the deity, Lord Advaitacharya, and called for the deity and installed the deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now he's calling him away, or sending him away, when the mission is complete in full. Therefore, both aspects are required. Therefore, for a devotee who is actually very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would not say he's only concerned with pleasing Krishna and not concerned with the fallen conditioned souls, because being concerned with the fallen conditioned souls and helping them is pleasing Krishna, because it's pleasing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We are meant to follow Lord Chaitanya. We're meant to follow his mood. We're meant to follow his teaching. And pleasing him is pleasing Krishna. And doing that means also saving the conditioned souls. Therefore, we take these responsibilities upon our shoulders to expand Krishna consciousness movement, just to accomplish that mission.
You mentioned the story about how the mouse ate the Libik and then got liberated. I was wondering if it isn't so easy to get liberation, but you eat something.
You right?
It's so difficult to struggle with the words of nature. It would be nice to get liberation from that part of the devotional service. Because the devotional service starts us to liberation.
We can order some B-works, one.
But people don't.
The problem with that is that you have to die first, then get liberation. That's not what we want. We want to serve Krishna now. Therefore, all these things we do help us to free ourselves from the sinful reactions, just like circumambulating Tulsi Devi. Yani kani chapa pani brahma hachari kani chapa. Even brahma hachari you get freed from. And when you're dancing in ecstasy in front of the deities and clapping your hands, all the birds of sinful reactions fly away from the tree that is there. So many things can bring you to the platform of liberation. Liberation is not difficult. Mukti didati karachit smana bhakti yoga. Mukti is easy. Of course, only Krishna can supply mukti. Not even Lord Shiva can do it. It says mukti didati sarvasham vishnureva samshaya. Lord Shiva said that only Krishna can grant you liberation. But Krishna himself says liberation is easy to attain, but not devotional service. Therefore, we should be eager to perform devotional service in this life, even if it is now mixed with the modes of nature. If we keep on doing it gradually, it'll become more and more purified from the modes of nature and gradually attain to Shuddha Bhakti. You always want to escape from the material world and just perform pure devotional service. But then where will you be in your conception? So, we never said it was easy to struggle with the modes. Krishna says, it's very difficult. We never said it was easy. And nowhere does it say that you just jump over the modes of nature into some imagined liberated state and then perform devotional service. It stated you perform devotional service from the platform you were on and just go up to that state of pure love of God. Liberation comes by the way. Gradually, it will come.
I understood One should be concerned with devotional service and not with
Yes, you should not be concerned with liberation. If you're concerned with liberation, then you're aiming low instead of aiming high. And then you will get liberation. Sure, if you want liberation, Krishna will give it to you. But then what? You will regret it. Yes?
I was in Krishna that there's many people that trying to Krishna or many colleagues engaged in this devotional service. And I know that also included always remembering.
Oh yes, that's one of the 9 types of devotional service. Remembering Krishna always is smarnam. Jagaram Kirtanam Krishna smarnam. So it's there as part of devotional service. So when you say, I want to engage eternally in your devotional service, it means one of the 9 kinds of devotional service. Keep on reading Krishna. Yes?
I'm wondering about this explaining how something material becomes spiritual to people. Because once I was talking to Vegans, then my final argument was that if one drinks milk and offers it to Krishna, then it becomes, they get spiritual advancement. And then they said this, they said that sounds just like a good excuse because you want to drink milk. It sounds like, how can you know that it is good?
That's just what a defeated person says. When he can't say anything else, he just says that. He says that just sounds like an excuse. The cow is meant to give milk, and the human is meant to drink that milk. That is the eternal relationship between cows and humans. It has been going on since time immemorial. Just because the vegans say it's not real, it's not the relationship, because cow's milk is only meant for the calves and not for the people, it doesn't mean it's true. What's the evidence? According to the Vedic literature, the cow and the products of the cow are, practically speaking, worshipful. And when you offer the milk of the cow, the cow is getting great spiritual benefit. We don't like what they're doing with cows. We think it's horrible. There's so many things. If you study each and every aspect of material nature, you wouldn't do anything. Ask them, why are they reading books? Why do they read newspapers? Why do they read magazines? All those trees are being killed. Or any other meat or meat product. And everything in the store has meat in it. Practically somehow or another it has some contaminated substance in it. And if you study each and everything that is in the material world today, you will find that it is causing some harm to some creature somewhere, plant or animal. Or fish, aquatics. So by their argument, one should do nothing. One should just go to the Himalayan mountains and be a yogi and eat air. So, goodbye. In the meantime, we'll use everything in Krishna's service and purify it, so that gradually people can be benefited. Nobody's benefited, not even the cows, by what they're doing. What they're doing sounds to me like an excuse to be known as good.
I was wondering, if you're doing like bus capture for shadow or some sort of like, say you're videos and
He's playing with Lodgermans.
any sort of speed or something that not necessarily hungry, but you're feeling less through the shot. You take it anyways, or you can show your song and not take it.
Depends on who you are. If one is a new devotee, just taking up the practice of Krishna consciousness, then he should eat unlimited amounts. If one is a mature devotee, then taking too much prasadam will be a detriment to his devotional service. You should accept those things favorable for devotional service and reject those things unfavorable for devotional service. So for an older devotee who knows better and who does not have to purify his tongue like that, he should be careful not to eat too much. Yes, you are. You have responsibility. In a young guy, you can eat tons and get away with it. When you get older, you can't do that anymore. So maybe while you've got the opportunity, you can go on stuffing your face, that's okay. But you're going to get some reaction for that. You know it yourself. So you should consider, here, well, I know better. If I eat these 30 rasgulas here, or, I eat 2 kilos of halava, something's going to happen. I remember in New York.